War in Ukraine becomes Russian roulette. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and US President Joe Biden discussed Ukraine's use of long-range missiles to attack deep into Russia in the White House on Friday. No announcements or joint news conference occurred. Starmer later informed the media that the conversations were productive but focused on strategy rather than particular step or tactic. He didn't say whether Kyiv could fire long-range missiles into Russia. Starmer warned that the UN General Assembly later this month may see more Storm Shadow missile advances. He said, "We'll obviously pick up again in UNGA in just a few days' time with a broader number of individuals." Because of Russian President Vladimir Putin's Thursday warning that using Western long-range missiles to strike Russia will mean that NATO countries, the United States, and European countries are parties to the war in Ukraine, the US and UK are extremely secretive. This will involve them directly in the battle and modify its character and nature dramatically. Putin said calmly, "This will mean NATO countries, the US and Europe, are at war with Russia. Considering the change in the conflict's character, we will make appropriate judgments in response to the threats we will face." Putin has issued similar warnings earlier, but he did not act when Ukraine invaded Russia with Western weapons. After the latest Kremlin warning, Biden said, "I don't think much about Vladimir Putin. Moscow believes that Kyiv has acknowledged the decision and that Moscow must act accordingly." On Saturday, Moscow's diplomatic point man, Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, said, "The decision has been made, the carte blanche and all indulgences have been provided to Kyiv, therefore we, Russia, are ready for whatever. And our reaction will be ugly." Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, now Deputy Chairman of the Security Council, added that the West is trying Russia's patience, which is limited. He said Ukraine's invasion gave Russia legal grounds to utilize its nuclear arsenal. Medvedev warned that Moscow may deploy nuclear weapons or its non-nuclear yet devastating new weapons for a large-scale attack. That concludes. He remarked on Telegram that Kyiv was a big, gray, melted area instead of the mother of Russian cities. Putin dismissed the Anglo-American lie that Ukraine will use Western long-range missiles, not NATO, again on Thursday. The Ukrainian army cannot use cutting-edge high-precision long-range systems from the West, he said. Cannot do that. Without satellite intelligence, Ukraine cannot use these weapons. This requires EU or US satellites, or NATO satellites in general. The most crucial element is that only NATO military officers may assign missile system flight missions. No Ukrainian soldiers can do this. Thus, allowing the Ukrainian regime to strike Russia with these weapons is irrelevant. It determines whether NATO countries join the military battle. Neither Washington nor London has refuted Putin's explanation, and British press reports have omitted it, perhaps out of concern that public opinion might oppose direct UK involvement in a war against Russia. Moscow expects the US-UK to test the waters by publicly employing Britain's Storm Shadow long-range air-launched cruise missile, which Ukraine has received. Russia fired 6 British diplomats from the Moscow embassy on Friday, warning of negative effects on UK-Russia relations. Russia has warned the UK of dire consequences if Storm Shadow hits Russian land. The cat-and-mouse game about NATO's clandestine involvement in the Ukraine war is giving place to a probability theory-based game of Russian roulette, making the situation highly perilous. Washington and London believe that the final outcome of this random event cannot yet be determined before it occurs. It may be any one of several possible outcomes, and the probability that it will be determined by chance cannot be ruled out. Biden apparently believes that Russia's battlefield dominance is random and could lead to the annihilation of Russian military power, a large-scale disruption of life in Russia, and the collapse of Russia, at least weakening Russia's hand in future negotiations. The battle is now about Russia, not Ukraine, and long-range missiles can change it. Thus, Biden, free from political restrictions, is increasing the battle to generate new facts on the ground before his administration ends in January, which may lead to a permanent NATO military presence in Ukraine and a fait accompli for Russia. Probability-based strategies are brazen like Russian roulette. With each escalation, Biden's Ukraine support options dwindle. According to the Wall Street Journal, with only 4 months remaining in the Biden administration and no likelihood of Congress authorizing more financing for Ukraine no matter who wins the presidency, the White House is contemplating how best to support Kyiv given its limited toolbox. Europe is likewise losing interest in the fight. The rise of the far right in Germany, the leadership crisis in French politics, the relative decline of the EU's economy vis-a-vis global rivals due to limited innovation, high energy prices, and skills gaps, and the overarching economic crisis in Europe with no end in sight, as Mario Draghi recently noted, are making European politics unpredictable. Biden is presetting the war's trajectory beyond January so that his strategy to defeat Russia strategically continues after his departure. On Saturday, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said Washington is planning substantial additional aid for Kyiv. Biden and Zelensky will meet this month, he said. Sullivan said Biden is trying to put Ukraine in the best possible position to prevail in his closing months. The fundamental line is that Biden's war strategy is becoming escalation management as NATO becomes a direct combatant. Indian Punchline published this article. Facebook, Twitter, email, Flipboard, Mastodon, LinkedIn, share.